Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Tuesday. We're already making our way through the week as we gear up to Saturday's trip to Aston Villa. What a big game that'll be for Arsenal. Would be a nice statement to send out, going to beat the team that, of course, beat them home and away last season. Revenge surely on their minds a little bit. But we are, of course, coming towards the final few days of the transfer window, a little bit longer left than that, but there is lots going on. We were talking yesterday about Merino, who, fingers crossed, that deal should get done. We've been waiting a long time for it to happen, but it is getting closer, I am assured, but we'll have to wait and see if it gets done or not. Fingers crossed it will. Of course, that's what Arsenal are pushing for, but there's lots of talk about outgoings right now as well. Since the last time we spoke, David Ornstein reporting the big news that Nottingham Forest are in talks with Arsenal over a deal for Eddie Nketiah. Also, that Aaron Ramsdale is a loan target for Wolves. So lots to discuss on that front today. We got loads of reaction from you guys to things we were talking about yesterday as well. So, of course, we'll get to those at the end of the show as well. But we've got to start on the latest transfer news. You see David's exclusive last night, yesterday afternoon, that Forest are working on a deal to sign Eddie Nketiah. 25 million, which includes add-ons, has been rejected by Arsenal. Of course, also rejected an offer or a couple of offers from Marseille earlier on in the summer as well for Nketiah, who is very much a wanted man. Crystal Palace also remain interested in Nketiah, been interested in Eddie for a long time, never materialised into anything yet. Whether they do enter the run-in for Nketiah between now and the end of the window, we'll have to wait and see. But the Forest stuff is ongoing as we speak. Now, there's been lots of debate, and I spoke about this yesterday in terms of I thought that Arsenal were right to stand firm in their valuation for Eddie when it came to the Marseille stuff. When you look at what other players are going for at the moment, I just think he's worth more than what was being offered. And 25 million, I've seen again lots of people saying, why aren't they just accepting that? And granted, they have to tread carefully because this is a deal Arsenal will want to get done. They're very open to letting Nketiah leave. But they can't just give him away. We've so many times we've sat here and we've complained about Arsenal and selling players and undervaluing players and all that sort of stuff. So we can't then sort of go full circle and then complain when they're not accepting the first offer that comes in for a player who they obviously value very, very highly and should value very, very highly as well, because Nketiah is a proven Premier League goal scorer. You can score in the Premier League. He has shown that. He is adapted to the Premier League. He could I think he walks into Nottingham Forest and I think he would do very, very well there. I really do. Now, I hope this deal gets done, but I can understand Arsenal not accepting the first deal straight away. And you've got to remember, it's not just 20. They haven't just offered 25 million pounds up front. So it's 25 million pounds, which includes all the add-ons. We don't know the initial down payment. We don't know the structure of the deal. 25 million including add-ons is the very bottom of what you would expect for Eddie Nketiah, in my view. So I think Arsenal have done the right thing in rejecting this opening offer. And it's not like Arsenal are the only club that does. Most teams, how many times have we seen Arsenal put in an opening offer for the player and it gets rejected straight away? So talks are ongoing. Now, I think 30 million is probably the number. And this isn't based on any information, though. It's probably the number you would think that Arsenal will be like, yeah, that's fair enough. Obviously the high end of what they're looking for Eddie would be about 35 million, as David mentions there. But if you get to around 30 million and the structure of the deal is right, I'm sure that's something that Arsenal would probably look to sanction. And let's hope that gets done. Arsenal do have to tread carefully because Forest are also in for Santiago Jimenez at Feyenoord. Of course, the striker has a very prolific goal scoring record over in Holland. There's reports they have had a bid rejected for him as well. Whether that's a sort of team playing a little bit of games, if you're going for one certain striker, so you put in two bids for two different ones that you probably know are going to be rejected, but that just tells the other club, like, oh, we've got to tread a bit carefully here because they're also bidding for someone else. And so if we're not too careful, if we're not careful, they'll end up leaving negotiations for our player and go and sign the other player instead. All that sort of thing does go on when it comes to transfers as well. So Arsenal do have to tread a little bit carefully, but talks are ongoing for Nketiah, and Arsenal are open to this sale. Now, let me know what you guys think on it. I've said my views on it. I think 30 million is just about the limit of what I would want for Eddie. I'd love 35 million, no doubt about it, but I think 30 million is right. Let me know your thoughts on it. Should Arsenal have accepted this opening offer for Eddie Nketiah? Or do you think, like me, they're right to stand their ground a little bit with this one and try and get as much money as they can for a player who they clearly value and believe has a proper market value, just as I do? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. So also on Aaron Ramsdale, look, I've said for a long, long time that I've always had a feeling that if Ramsdale does eventually go in this window, which I've expect he probably will, it might end up being a loan deal with some sort of buy option included. If just had that sense as this window's gone on, as I said, even towards the end of last season, I had the sense that that might well be the scenario that ends up with Ramsdale leaving the club this summer because of the long-term contract he has, because of the money he's on, because that rival clubs know that he is number two now. They're not going to be absolutely banging down Arsenal's door with an offer that Arsenal think would probably meet their value of Ramsdale straight away. So loan has always felt like it could be. Obviously, Arsenal would much prefer it to be a permanent deal, but we now know that Wolves have made a loan offer for Aaron Ramsdale, which would include a buy option. We'll see how that one progresses. There's also talk that Bournemouth are looking at him, Southampton, another club who we know have got an interest in Aaron Ramsdale. Ajax have been mentioned as well. Now, time is running out in this window. Arsenal, we know, like Juan Garcia at Espanyol, the suggestions that already that is done and dusted in terms of personal terms agreed with the goalkeeper. Obviously, they don't have to go and get a deal done with Espanyol should Ramsdale leave. So there's lots of moving parts involved in this goalkeeper situation at Arsenal. And you, again, kind of similar to Nketiah, you would want this one wrapped up relatively early. You don't want it to go to the final couple of days of the window and then you're left sort of scrambling around trying to get all your eggs in the right basket to ensure that every deal goes through. Because you can see, you can always look at Conor Gallagher and the João Felix fiasco, the typical Chelsea moves that are going on at the moment. One of those sort of stumbles a little bit, the other deal can't get done. You want to leave yourself enough time to be able to sort things out. We see there a picture on the screen of Gary O'Neill with Aaron Ramsdale after the game at the weekend. Rates Aaron Ramsdale very, very highly. And why shouldn't he? Because he's an excellent goalkeeper. And again, like I said, ideally, Arsenal would get this done on a permanent basis. And you'd love to get in your money back for Aaron Ramsdale right now, move on and start afresh. It'd be great for him. Be good for Arsenal, obviously. It would solve them a problem. But more importantly, it'd be great for Ramsdale, as I said. He needs to go out and play. He said it himself. He doesn't want another season sitting on the bench. And quite rightly, because he's too good a goalkeeper to be sitting number two. From an Arsenal point of view, from a fan point of view, like, well, just keep Aaron because you got your second choice goalkeeper who's top quality, knows the club. He can come in whenever David Raya's injured. But you know, ultimately, you've got to take the players' wishes into account as well at certain points. And I think it'd be best for Wolves High if this could get sorted out. Whether Wolves' offer is one that Arsenal deem to be good enough to accept, whether they have the finances to be able to come up with some sort of obligation to buy next summer, we'll have to wait and see. But let me know your thoughts on that as well. As I said, same as Nketiah, same as Ramsdale. Let me know your thoughts on all the transfer stuff that's going on at Arsenal right now in the comments below. Mikel Merino, it rumbles on, of course. I've got some comments here, or quotes here from the Real Sociedad president, Joaquin Arabi, who has been speaking about the situation with Arsenal and Merino and detailing exactly what is going on right now. He said, last week we had a meeting with Arsenal. On Saturday, we had another conversation. We haven't had any more yet. We will have one this week and we'll see how the conversation progresses. We are going to defend the interests of Real. And when we consider that the operation is the right one for Real, we will say yes, but not before then. Mikel feels very much like a Real fan, but he told us that if a Premier League team came in, he wanted to fill his dream of returning to the Premier League and trying to be successful. And if not, we would then talk about renewing a contract. When I was in Japan for Sociedad's pre-season tour, the Sociedad director, Roberto Alabi, called me to tell me that Arsenal had called us. And from that conversation, we knew that Mikel was going to say yes to Arsenal. We would have liked him not to have come on, we would have done it earlier. So that's the latest from the Real Sociedad president, confirming, that there's going to be more talks this week to try and get this deal done. But quite rightly for them, they obviously want to get as much money as possible. Arsenal want to get a good deal. I still think this is a deal that's going to get done. And as I said yesterday, from all accounts, from what we're hearing, there is a strong feeling that this is going to move forward pretty well this week. But it's still got to happen. And we still wait and see on this, what is definitely turning into a pretty long-running saga when it comes to Mikel Merino and his move to Arsenal. Okay, Fantasy Premier League update time. Obviously, you had the final game of the opening week. How on earth did Tottenham not win that game yesterday? It was absolutely hilarious. I put my kids to bed tonight. I watched the first half hour of the game, and Tottenham should have been like 6-0 up. Every time they went forward, they should have scored a goal, and they didn't. And I was just like, this is unbelievable how one-sided it is, and how dreadful Leicester looked defensively. And then I went and put my kids to bed, and I came down afterwards, fully expecting to look at the final score, and it to have been like 4-0 Spurs. And I did laugh to myself when I saw it was 1-1. And they could have even lost. If Jamie Vardy had scored that chance when he went through 1-1, it would have been absolutely hilarious. And Vardy leaving the pitch, pointing to the Premier League and then to the Spurs fans, letting them know that he's won one and they've won none, is absolutely classic. Proper gold that was. As was Jamie Vardy telling Romero to, in polite terms, go away when he made his complaints afterwards as well. But anyway, 1-1. So that was the final round, the final game of the opening weekend of the season. And there is the Inside Arsenal table for the FPL table at the end of that first round of fixtures. Espresso Martinelli, managed by Montel Young, has caught up and drawn level with our leader, JB's 4.0, the team name, obviously from Vidan. So we got joint leaders at the top after the end of the first week. I now, after putting the code up yesterday, and again, for anyone who still wants to join, you can. I'll put the code again into the description below. I think I was 51st or something yesterday. And now with so many of you now joined, I'm about 900 and something. I still didn't do too badly. I was on about 60 points, I think, something like that. And yeah, I'm about 900th, which has not made me feel too good. But yeah, well done to Montel Young and to Vidan as well. You two lead the way after week 1 of the FPL season in the new Inside Arsenal FPL League. So well done to you two. And like I said, if you want to join that league, it is down in the description below. Well, let's move on to some questions and comments now. And kicking things off is Aaron, who says, "Hey, Charles, regarding transfer news on Ramsdale and Nketiah, my guess is that it was always the club idea to sell homegrown players to other Premier League clubs. Transfer market keeps on moving. Eventually, our players will become the next target to other clubs, can get more money because they are homegrown. Hope something progresses more with Nelson too. Only issue is when we sell our fringe players, can we get a replacement within the next 2 weeks? Realistically, I can't see it happening unless we somehow convince Nico Williams and activate his release clause like we did with Partey on the last day of the window. Well, that is an option. Of course, it would be a brilliant option. As I said yesterday, I would love Nico Williams at the club. The fact there is that release clause, it is something that can be done in a day, as we saw with Thomas Partey. So you can't rule it out for certain. Obviously, right now, it's looking more and more likely that Nico Williams is going to be staying at Athletic for the season. But we'll wait and see. And I agree with you. I mean, obviously on the goalkeeper situation, as we're talking of Ramsdale, Arsenal have already got the Juan Garcia thing lined up. It needs to get done, obviously. But you're right. Time is ticking now. And if things are going to move forward in terms of any potential incomings, then you need to get the outgoings done as quickly as possible. And so it is certainly with Ramsdale and Nketiah, the two deals you want to get done as quickly as possible. And like you say, we'll wait and see what happens with Reece Nelson as well. James here has got in touch on the Gundogan news. Of course, it looks like he is leaving Barcelona. Manchester City back in talks to bring him back to the Etihad. Just what we need, isn't it? The Gundogan going back to the Etihad, considering what he did at the end of the season 2 seasons ago. Hi, Charles. What do you think of the news of Gundogan and the possibility of him leaving Barca? Should we move for him? Now, Arsenal wanted Gundogan when he was leaving Man City. They tried to sign him. He ended up going to Barcelona. I've not heard that they have now entered the running to try and get him to the club, following the news that Barcelona are open to letting him go. It's beginning to look a bit of a foregone conclusion that he is going to go back to Manchester City. Pep Guardiola is backing the idea. City are now in talks with that. So do I think, I'm not sure now. He's still a very good player, no doubt about it. I think he's 33. You know, even when Arsenal signed Jorginho, I was a bit like, it's a little bit old, and he was about 30, 31, I think, at the point. 33 just seems a little bit too old for me now. I think the time to get Gundogan, if you were going to get him, was when he left City. I think another year has gone past now. I'd just be a little bit suspect to it because of what the wages would be as well. So no, I'm not overly keen on the idea now, James, I have to say. Here's one from MPH4379. Says, good to have you back from holiday. Thank you very much. Said, you always spoke highly of Xerxes and Neto, who have now signed for United and Chelsea. Do you feel any regret for us not pushing harder for them and any intel on why we haven't moved for Tony? I really hope we don't have another if-only season when talking about our goal-scoring options. Well, you look at Tony at the moment, it's going to Saudi Arabia, by all accounts, which I can't imagine that's a move he was hoping for. But no one has pressed the button. He's been available. Everyone knew he was available, and no one in England has pressed the button to try and sign Ivan Toney. In terms of Xerxes and Neto, I'm not bothered about Xerxes. No, I am about Neto. I really like Neto. Actually, it's the first signing of the 594 million players that Chelsea have signed in the last 2 years that I've actually been a bit jealous of. You all know I like Pedro Neto. I did have my concerns about his injury record, of course, but I felt like that could have been a risk worth taking just because he wasn't going to have to play every single game at Arsenal like he probably would have done when he was at Wolves, and maybe was used a little bit too much and not given enough time to sort of get himself back fit when he was available again. Maybe that sort of contributed to the string of injuries that he had. But at Arsenal, you could rotate, you could ease the burden on him a little bit. And I felt it was maybe a risk worth taking. So I am a bit gutted that he's gone to Chelsea. It was a move I would have been excited about had Arsenal signed him. But Xerxes, I'm not overly bothered. I didn't know that much about Xerxes. I heard he was highly rated and a good player, but I've never really seen that much of him. So I'm not overly bothered that he's gone to Manchester United. And I know he scored in his debut, and he might do well for him. But no, I'm not too bothered about that one. But Pedro Neto, yeah, I am a little bit gutted, I have to admit. Vetpara has got in touch. Says, given the interest in Gahey and Anderson at Palace, I kept on wondering why we haven't seen more interest in Kivior, even for a loan. He's quite versatile, decent on the ball, left-footed. Surely he would be an upgrade to most centre-backs in the league. Well, I think it's just mainly because if he does go, I think the preference for Kivior is to go back to Italy, where he's very, very happy. He had a good spell there before he came to Arsenal. And I think his preference, if he is to go, and there is a chance that he might go between now and the end of the window, is that his preference is overwhelmingly to go back to Italy, where we know there's strong interest in him from several clubs and has been for a long, long time. So I think that is probably the reason. Communication-wise, I don't think he's the best when it comes to speaking English. So maybe that's, other Premier League clubs. I know that, so maybe other Premier League clubs know that as well, and that might be why he's not at the top of their list right now. They'd rather go for someone else. But I think mainly because the preference that is that if he does end up going, that he goes back to Italy. So I imagine that's probably the main reason. And quickly moving on, Graham says here, Timber must play against Villa. And I thought that was an interesting one. Looking ahead to that Villa game, we know how Villa play. We know the threat they carry out wide with their wingers, with Leon Bailey, who saw play very, very well, I thought, against West Ham in their opening game of the season. And it just made me think about what Arsenal are going to do and the decisions Mikel's going to be facing when we come to the Villa game. We'll talk about that as the week progresses, of course, as we start to really gear up for that trip to Villa Park on Saturday. But Graham's point, I think, is Timber looked good when he came on. Obviously, he got caught in possession once. I thought Zinchenko had a decent game. I think he's had a good few weeks. Zinchenko played well in the two Emirates warm-up games as well. But I think with the threat that Leon Bailey provides, then that left-back decision is going to be a big one for Mikel Arteta. Obviously, Calafiori's there as well. Is he going to be deemed ready? I doubt it at this stage. I think we're going to see Calafiori certainly given a good couple of months to really bed himself into Arsenal before he becomes an absolute regular in this side. Timber looks ahead of him right now in the pecking order. He came on at the weekend. Calafiori didn't, of course. And yeah, I tend to agree with Graham. I think if Timber's fine and he's fit and he's deemed that he's ready to play at least 70 minutes, then I would probably go with Timber to try and deal with the threat that Leon Bailey will provide against Arsenal on Saturday. So thank you very much for that comment, Graham. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. As always, I really do appreciate it. And don't forget, if you want to join the newly created Inside Arsenal FPL League, then get down into the description. The code is there. The link to the site is there as well. Do that and join in the fun that we should have later as the season progresses. That's it, everyone. Have a good day. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.